Well, thank you for joining us. And after that hot edition of Johnny's Bite, you can always add the hashtag TV3Newday to all interactions through network pages. We're talking about TV3 Ghana, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And as you join us, let us also continue with some great discussions right here. We have the newspapers. He's already shown you what's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. And it's about attempts or efforts currently by government led by the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to ensure that we get out of the hole we've decided to dig for ourselves. And also on the front page of the Daily Guide, we have Galamsey Queen, interpreter missing, trial as a result adjourned. We have the front page of Ben Huang or Aisha Huang. It depends on how you want to call her. Agrada gets additional 150,000 Ghana Cedi bail. 6 grabbed over NDC violent polls, and we know that the polls took place over the weekend. We also have Council of State meets President. Nana opens Abomusu Bridge. That's a good one as part of the communication by government that a lot of infrastructure is taking place currently across the country. On the front page of the Daily Statesman, we have gangster politics Mars NDC elections. Akufo-Addo's debt or development record in Eastern region phenomenal, according to the Daily Statesman. Deadline also given for registration of all excavators. We'll talk about the ramped up efforts as government continues a second, if you want to say, a third round of effort to clamp down on Galamsey. You will know that the latest is that apparently a pregnant woman, a community in the Shanti region, wanted to go to the toilet, so to speak. But forgive my words. And apparently, a Galamsey pits had been dug beneath all households in the community, and we brought you that story, Ibrahim Abubakar on top of it, and just caved in. She died subsequently. They had to take the effort of people, excavators, to make sure that she was carried in the bucket of the excavator. It was an eyesore, actually. But it speaks to volumes, the content and the concerns that we're having about efforts by those who are MMDCEs to help the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources clamp down on this, the Minerals Commission as well. The Finder says BOG Banks Forex set for crunch meeting. Kujapon Nkrumah, the Honorable Minister for Information, just giving us an insight into that crunch meeting. But that also brings me to our guest this morning. And I have straight with me representing government communications, but also on the MPP's communication team, Director of External Affairs, Frederick Kofi Ameyaw. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Okay, it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you first returned from the United States of America. Well, that was the last time we met.
Don't do this.
You came in, surveyed the country, and then you came back fully to stay. So that's a great one.
No, I didn't come in fully to stay.
You've been shuffling. Okay. Because I know that you were playing a huge role for the MPP in the United States of America. Many people don't know that. Sometimes tell them that you're just not...
They do. That is why they appointed me as the
Let me finish. They should know that you're just not making bread here. I mean, you lived your life in the United States before coming here.
It's okay.
Many people, I should stop it there. All right. So we also do have, just seated close by me, Member of Parliament for the Tamale Central constituency, a former Deputy Trade Minister, was very instrumental when it comes to many issues of trade under the John Mahama-led government, under the NDC. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is also here. Good morning to you, Good morning. My brother, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm okay.
Shukran, mashallah, mashallah. We have Bernard Mona, always in his Che Guevara care for berets. I have to be more precise. Former national chair for the PNC, Bernard Mona. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm wondering whether Kofi had seen Katie Hammond of late, because carrying these things.
Because he's a young man.
With the head, the coconut looking like head.
I think Katie Hammond really goofed, because Frederick is one of the.
I really don't know whether he has seen Katie Hammond of late and what would be his response.
Yeah, because what he said was...
That is characteristics of him.
Who is the producer? Is it Danny? Danny, please, when you have this pair, don't bring
No, I think all of you are great players
just
together.
Asking,
No.
Well, Kofi, so straight away, we're told that within the circles of government, there's supposed to be crunch meeting. Did it start yesterday and it's continuing up to Friday, I'm told? Just because of the crisis we find ourselves here.
Yeah, good morning to you, Johnny, and to your cherished viewers and to my wonderful friends here. It's been a while since I came. I don't chop alone. Waka, the reality is that where we find ourselves today is not where we ever expected to be as a government. Really? And even as a people, we never thought we could be here where we would have to go through this excruciating, painful situation. It is not the best. We are not in the best of places. I've said here many times that the president did admit in the budget statement 2021 that what keeps him awake every night is the fact that Ghanaians are genuinely suffering. The vice president has said same when he went to Central Region to meet the young people of our party, that without cause, Ghanaians are really suffering. So I think I saw a video where he was mentioning Ghanaians are suffering. And he hasn't moved away from that. Indeed, currently things are not in the best of shape.
You mean the president acknowledges that?
All the time. I've had the opportunity to meet with the president a couple of weeks ago when he came to the United States, New York, for the United Nations General Assembly high political meeting. We had a meeting. He admitted that,
in the United States.
Yes.
But in Ghana, he's never admitted. His comments in the Ashanti region.
No, it wasn't. If you want us to
discuss, if you like, vote for MPP or vote for
it was in the context of the people craving for roads.
So I am taking him out of context.
No, craving for roads, and that they wouldn't vote for him if he doesn't fix the road. And he said he is doing his possible best to ensure that at the end of the day, everybody receives its fair share.
Or you are trying to interpret what he said.
Come on, let's go back to the tape.
Okay, please continue.
And that the decision to vote for a particular party or not is up to the individual. Do you get? So for me, again, there's a wide admittance and acknowledgement of what we are going through now. And that is why government day in and day out taking pragmatic. It didn't just start yesterday. It started a while ago when the finance minister came on board, gave a new directive as to how...
The finance minister was in a state of denial when after e-levy was introduced or deployed, was not doing too well, before they started doing the stakeholder engagements, that we were never going to go to the IMF because we're not in difficulties. Look, so if you say that he has admitted, and that's a post-factor
before that,
rationalization
activity. I think March 23rd, earlier this year, when he came out with the new directive as to how best we can navigate ourselves through these economic challenges, there was a clear admittance, and the statement is there, that we are going through tough times. As far as going to the IMF is concerned, I mean, it's every government's dream not to go to the IMF. Okay, so if at some point we declare that we are not going to IMF, but the circumstances are not the same. Johnny, there's one thing that we need to admit and accept as a people, okay, and it's global. The cascading effect of the pandemic that visited us has caused a lot of havoc on every nation. Stage.
So, including Ghana.
Exactly. So when sometimes we create the impression, yes, we have our fundamental challenges, historically, culturally, and all that. Things we could have done better, we could have done right. Unfortunately, we didn't do so. And then COVID and its effect exacerbated it and all of that. And then the Russian-Ukraine war as well. We are not saying that everything that is happening to us as a result of the COVID or Ukraine. No, we are not saying that, because we admitted in paragraph 4.
You just stated that. No. Now are you retracting your words?
I'm not retracting. I'm building
because
a point.
Before COVID struck, there was clear evidence from the Bretton Woods institutions, those who tend to observe the market and the economy, as well as the credit rating agencies, that we needed to look at the structure of the economy, even though that structure of change had been promised by the president's government. You've heard you were in the US, so let me just apprise you of the phrase, from Gettysburgian economy to one of value addition. You've heard the phrase before.
No, even way back in 2004, I recall when President Mahama granted an interview with France 24. he even made mention of the fact that we have always maintained the fact that the
But this
structure
time,
of
the president in power promised that he
I'm
would
making a
change.
point. The structure of the economy fundamentally needs to be changed. And we have made frantic effort. We are talking about a deliberate,
What are the efforts?
automotive industry that needs to be built in this country.
Where?
We are talking about making
Where's the
sure
automotive industry?
we are making
have
sure
assembly plants. Where is the automotive
it
industry?
starts from a point. So I'm saying that there's a deliberate attempt to ensure that we move away from that Gettysburg structure of economy to an economy that is reflective of the new day. We are talking about a government attempting to ensure that at least every district will be able to have a factory. We are talking about a government that is able to ensure that at the end of the day, this economy will be industrialized, making sure that we take advantage of the digital environment and ecosystem and all of. So we are gradually moving away from where we came from. And I think it takes a bit of time. Unfortunately, there are some exogenous factors that have crept in and have really...
Mr. Mayor, we're not
crippled us.
gradually moving away from
We
it.
are gradually moving away.
I'm doing a
from-
documentary currently on the crisis that we have.
Okay.
We're a country that started exportation or importation of rice from 400 million from 2014, 2015. Now we're in the region of $2 billion. Tomatoes, over $100 million in excess, alongside other vegetables. You know where we get our onions from? From Niger. Niger is a desert-like or Sahelian country. So if you say we're moving, we should have been seeing some progress with 1D, 1F, plenty for food and jobs in that regard. Clearly, the numbers just don't speak for themselves, and they are reflected in the prices.
You see, when you study economics, even fundamentally and the basics, you realize that the taste of the consumer is also a part in making sure that you arrest the situation. So if, for example, government provides all the facilities, all the infrastructure, help farmers to produce more. As we speak now, I can tell you confidently that when it comes to capacity of local rice growers or farmers, it's something that is appreciable. But at the end of the day, the demand and taste of the people, do they really want the local food? And I think it's an area that we need to look at. You can have all the similar packages for farmers to grow tomatoes and rice and onions and everything. But if the people demand something else, today I don't recall the last time. Anytime I go to work, even back in the States, they will ask me, why are you not wearing your suit? Because moving forward, I've decided to be wearing African print. Now we are getting there. But yet we have a lot
We're not getting there.
Exactly. So why? Because
You
we have
always
a lot of
compare us
people-
to our neighbor. You know, Nigeria, they put barriers on importation of rice, tomatoes, just because you have big players like Dangote and many of them who have been cushioned by the states with either legislations, either in tariff barriers, etc., to make sure that there's a total crowding out of imports. And that is deliberate. You've heard the phrase that leadership if everything and everything else is effective.
So you see,
So
when
if you're saying that our taste,
Walker,
and then you as leaders, you say that because we have taste for rice, if you don't bring in the rice, we'll have no taste. We'll have taste for local rice.
look, Walker, I was making the point that we are getting
Please
there
continue.
because one, whilst we are boosting, we are helping local farmers to grow. Okay, it's one step. Then the other step is putting the legislative instruments, the barriers to ensure that at the end of the day, the
After
reliance,
6 years.
Hold on, relax. Because at the end of the day, for example, when you ban rice totally, do we have the capacity to produce and supply to the local demand? Is an area we need to look at. Let's say, for example, we put a ban on used clothes in this country. Do we have the capacity to supply to the demand of the people? So I believe that it's a step. Now we are gradually inching towards an area where we will be self-sufficient in some areas in terms of production of some product that we consume more as a people. And I think that these things do not just magically happen. It takes deliberate steps. And I think that maybe...
You mean after 6 years, we couldn't have done that?
Oh, we've come from somewhere. We've come from somewhere. So I am extremely positive that there's indeed a deliberate attempt to industrialize this country. That you cannot deny. But Now it has to come with the legislative instrument, the barriers to ensure that at the end of the day, these local farmers,
After
these
6
local
years.
people,
Only when we decided to go to the IMF and our economy is in turmoil.
Don't say after.
Please wrap up. Let me
wrap up.
Please wrap up. The meetings. We're talking about the meetings. Whether the meetings are going to be effective.
Effective, yes, because I think for the last couple of days, yesterday or day before yesterday, we've seen a bit of strength being gained by the cedi. So, you see,
the cedi has not gained strength. The dollar only increased by 1.
I see.
Yesterday.
I see. But you see, let's put this whole thing in proper context. The dollar is also doing well. The US is doing well. Just recently, I said this with a lot of respect and humility, in all humility, because I'm the External Affairs Director. I happened to travel around Europe. I was in Germany, I was in the UK.
At our expense.
And not at your expense, please. It's the parties. Don't do that. I don't like this. And you could tell that Germany, they are suffering. Like, they are really suffering. UK is where I took Uber from the airport to the hotel I went to lodge. And the driver was talking about how a year he was spending 850 on gas, but now he's spending 2,500 pounds on gas. So things are increasing everywhere. I am not saying that we should use that as an excuse, but we live in a competitive market where the performance of another country has a huge effect on another country. I am saying that the dollar is performing well. We have short supply of dollars in the system, we must admit. So government is meeting the stakeholders to ensure that at the end of the day...
And you're saying something positive will come.
Exactly, something...
Okay. You've lived in the US. Before I come to it, let's be sincere. When you first came around to make sure you joined government in Ghana, I saw you. Would you realistically side with that comparison we keep making with the US economy and the Ghana economy?
You can never, ever in your life compare.
Thank you for that admission. Now, if we come to the point where government says it is taking these decisions, entering into these meetings because Buta and the other stakeholders have raised issues, they even had to close shop to this point. It means that there's some deliberate effort to make sure, we get there. Is it too late in the day, or it's come at the right time? Good morning.
Good morning, Roland. Good morning to my lost friend, and good morning to the oldest man on this program, Bernard Mona, and your viewing public, and most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. I would love to begin with two Dagomba proverbs. One, and I would say that one in Dagban and then give you the translation. Na nyinirko martia le liao. Nanti chekamelo no belosra. To embang ne yalama de nyongoma. That when you see a man cutting a tree with a pickaxe, and suddenly he leaves the pickaxe and begins to use his finger to cut the tree, it tells you that he's completely lost the effort of cutting that tree. That is one. The other one is that, and with all apologies to your viewing public, perhaps some may be taking their breakfast. You cannot sleep with an itching anus and do not expect to wake up with smelling fingers.
Say that again.
You cannot sleep with an itching anus and do not expect to wake up with the smelling fingers.
How does it relate to this?
When you are sleeping, your anus is itching, you will scratch.
Certainly.
And once you scratch, certainly, you wake up with smelling fingers.
Because you didn't bath the night.
It doesn't still matter. The point has to do with the challenges confronting us. And perhaps I would garnish it with what Albert Einstein once said, that the significant problem that confront us can never be solved with the thinking we had when we created them. Now, the first proverb is that this attempt to create a charade, more or less, of a government deliberate attempt to find solution to this is just likened to someone cutting a tree with a pickaxe and suddenly using his fingers. It will lead to absolutely nothing, and I will justify that.
How is that?
I'll justify
At
that.
least there's some acknowledgement.
I'll justify that. And he said he saw the video of Dr. Baumia when he said people are suffering. Dr. Baumia is one, my brother in several folds. One, and which is most important, he's my Muslim brother. Two, he's my northern brother. Now, I would want to use this opportunity to apologize to the people of this country for and on behalf of my senior brother for having lied to the people of this country.
He never lied.
He did. haven't lied to in fact, haven't deceived, maybe perhaps
never
I use
deceived
that,
Ghanaians.
the people of this country. I listen to you.
Okay.
I mean, when it's embarrassing, it's so shameful, it's un-Northern, it's un-Islamic, it's uncharacteristic of us. And that is why I want to apologize for and on his behalf. That people have lost so much confidence. And I'll tell you one thing that we all pride ourselves, and Mona will bear witness to this, and he would attest to that the Northerners were respected for their sincerity and honesty. That's how Northerners were respected for. That even in those days, when we had several young men and women from the North who came to the southern part of the country to do work, people trusted them. Unfortunately, Dr. Baumia has presented a different picture. And I want to tell our friends that that is not who we are. We are not liars. We are not deceitful people. It is just him. And I really want to apologize. And I'm saying this with all the sincerity. So one, it will lead to nothing, because if the fundamentals are wrong, certainly you would find the problems we have. Roland, you were not hosting this program 2 years ago, and I have shared the same platform with him, which I said that the problems we were confronted was squarely on the president for refusing to sack the minister for finance. And I have been saying that this man should be sacked not today, over 2 years ago. And I've also said on this program, the reason why the man is still there, because he uses Oforiata. And the only way you can get appointment is that go and swear affidavit as an MPP member. Add Oforiata to your name.
Oh.
And look, please, add Oforiata to your name. And you would have any appointment in any contract you want. A president who says, I won't reshuffle. There are 3 reasons why governments reshuffle. There are 3 reasons. Once your appointees know that you will reshuffle, it put them on their toes. They know that, look, they need to work hard to impress you, deliver so that you don't remove them. And reshuffle doesn't necessarily mean sack. That's 1. 2, once a government reshuffles, you deny your appointees from being comfortable. When appointees are comfortable
they sit on
at their
their toes.
workplaces, when they are comfortable, they get to be corrupt. When people are comfortable, you see, you find people who like going to work every day. People say, the man likes the job. There are people who would want to come to work every day, not that they love the job, because they are corrupt, they are doing something shady. And they know that once they are absent from work, people would identify the kinds of, corrupt deals that they were engaging in.
You know that we have a constitution. The constitution says the appointing authority is the president. The president went to the Ashanti region and says that based on the record of the gentleman who is the finance minister, the first term, I have no cause or recourse
Roland,
to
tell
say
me
that
one single success story that can be attributed
I can
to
tell
this
you
man.
right here.
he was appointed. Please,
Which is?
please,
Tell me which
no,
story?
no,
which story?
please go ahead. No, please.
Tell me one single story. And he said he can tell me. The ultimate objective of every government is to improve the living conditions of the people. Is that not the case? Now, one of the means by which you improve the living conditions of your people to grow the economy, expand it, create the needed jobs. In 2006, in fact, carry forward, 2017, 7 January, the President Mahama you guys described as incompetent.
Which he was.
Well, we would look at the facts. There are 3 sides to every story. That's what culture says. Your side, my side, and the truth. When President Mahama you described as incompetent, unemployment was 6.8. You took it from that so-called incompetent to 17.4 the last time unemployment. Inflation was 15%. It is 37% going. You said President Mahama was incompetent. The dollar to the cedi was 3.7. How much is it today? You said President Mahama was incompetent.
It's 16 in excess.
Exactly.
Do you have COVID?
Point.
Please. Hold on. You see, the list anyone says about COVID, the better. It's annoying when you begin to insult
But
us with that
President Mahama goes
Please,
to
let me come.
international-
Please, let me come. Don't insult the intelligence of the people of this country.
Just same
The-
thing.
the MPP things were all
You are not rowdy.
The MPP,
Don't try to
the MPP things
present
were,
that defense.
You see, it's difficult.
Nkofi-
Okay, I won't
It's
please,
difficult pushing an
US
elephant.
people don't behave that way.
It's difficult pushing an elephant through the eye of a needle. So I can understand sometimes their frustration. When you talk about COVID, why? COVID affected everybody. This is not the first time we have a global catastrophe. And in fact, we had economic meltdown under the NDC. The global market was hugely affected.
Well, oil prices were
Forget
down.
of even the oil
And then
prices.
the other commodities
Forget
as
of even that. I am saying that, granted that we had COVID, Before COVID hit, our economy was the second best to Nigeria in West Africa. Why is it that we are last today? Why is it that we are last? Before COVID, and in any case, COVID affected us. And I have heard them, and some of the incompetent communicators of the NPP, who go to town in their morass of incompetence and deceit, that we have managed COVID than our neighbors. How do you manage COVID than our neighbors when more people died in Ghana than they died in the neighboring countries? That is the best way of managing COVID, is to prevent...
The explanation that government communicators and even the Ministry of Information did give was that because we were doing more testing, we were having a possibility which usually...
Did we do more testing than Senegal?
No,
that's not even true.
But because we were doing more testing and then also doing more engagement, we were likely to get more people to get access to health facilities, and so the numbers will be up.
So if people don't get access to health facility, they will die.
I'm only telling you what the responses were at the time.
That is another
because, for example, if you compare to Gold Benin, they were having less.
That is another insulting explanation. If the argument...
what do you mean by insulting?
Look, I did philosophy, and I did logic 101, logic 102, 201. I'm saying that, assuming without admitting that their whopping logic is what we want to take, that when you have access to more health to treatment as a result of COVID, your life may be your life may be protected. Is that not the case? That's the logic.
Yeah, you get treatment.
You get treatment. Yeah. So it means that countries that they do not have access to testing, they don't have more testing, people are likely to die. Is that not the logic?
That they will get more infections, but not publicly reported.
Hold on. It doesn't matter whether publicly reported. I'm talking of death. I'm talking of death.
That's the logic.
So when you do more testing, you'll be able to identify those who are affected by COVID and you treat them. And now they argue that they have done more testing. How did they even come to that argument, that they have done more testing than our neighbors? Granted that they have done more testing, just for the purposes of this our discussion. They have done more testing than Senegal, than Ivory Coast, than Burkina. It means that Ivory Coast didn't do more testing. The likelihood of people getting, COVID, and because they were not tested, the possibility of they dying will be more. How come that more people died in Ghana than in neighboring countries?
Well,
yet they go to town and says that we did very well in COVID than our neighbors. That's what they go on to tell us. But that is not even...
It's only as they were praised by the WHO and other international...
It's not about what the WHO... They praised Senegal. Senegal came out with their own vaccine.
What true?
At the cost of how much? They praised Burkina. Tell me one single African country the WHO didn't praise.
And Senegal didn't come out with their own vaccine. They came with some remedies.
Yes, so now we sit here and then we say that they praised us as if they didn't praise the other countries. But the point I want to make on this is that we borrowed more than any of our neighbors. We took $3 billion from the IMF in the name of COVID. Took $904 million in the name of COVID from the World Bank. Got over 300 million euro from the European Union. Dip our hands into all manner of funds established by President Mohammed. The president you describe as incompetent. Funds established, you dip your filthy hands into those funds, took those monies. Apart from that, none of them went to their central bank to borrow money. When you went for 10 billion, you ended up taking about 20 billion from the central bank. Tell me, if none of them, Burkina went to the IMF for 20 million euro, $20 million. They manage it better than us. As we see today, we were deceived, and that I describe as cartoon scenario reality, that they were giving us free water and free electricity. Mind you, the free water and free electricity was not extended to everybody in this country. Now, you tricked us and told us it was free, that you are giving us from the monies you borrowed in the name of COVID. As we see today, you and I are still paying COVID levy. We do not know how much government spent in the provision of the water and the electricity, yet we are paying. We don't know whether we have finished paying that money or not. That was deceitful. So the list say about COVID and others, the better. But let me come to Ukraine. Now, I have heard him.
30 seconds.
Yes, I have heard him.
30 seconds, you're going to Ukraine.
And he said that he went to UN, he traveled, and Germany, the economy. Everybody knows that the military-industrial complex is profiting from the war in Ukraine. Everybody knows that Germany depended on Russia on their energy supply over 50%. Everybody knows many European countries' economy, they underestimated their dependence on Germany, on Russia. And as a result of these things are the reasons why they are going through the challenges. Our problem is crass incompetence, is Arrogance. At the time when we were asking you to go to IMF, you refused to go to IMF because the call was being made by the NDC. This is a disaster, and frankly, and I say this with all sincerity, the reason why we had unfortunate turmoil in many African countries, a quarter of what is happening in Ghana never happened in those countries.
Mr. Mona, the reality is that we have to sit at the table. The leading economists of the country, even essentially those outside, and then also those who are practicing within the financial institution, have called on government to make sure that we rally around the table. But now it's come at a time. How should these discussions have been held? Should they have just been held within the circles of stakeholders, etc.? But even those populations should have been further deepened, broadened. Maybe bring in opposition elements to make sure that we broadly look at the challenges we're facing. Because we're told that the president will be having an address. When is he having it?
He will have it,
but you don't know the date yet. Please go ahead, Mr. Mona.
Good morning to Kofi, to Ibrahim Mutala, and to yourself, the many viewers globally. I am very appalled this morning.
At what?
At the fact that President Akufo-Addo still harbors the feeling that God will provide him wisdom so that he will be able to scale the economic challenges that we face. And that could not have fitted more purposefully than what Murtala Mohammed said, that a man who is using an axe to cut a wood or a tree suddenly drops the axe, starts using his hand to want to fell the tree. It's obvious that there is loss of hope, loss of ideas, and above all, a sense of senselessness that has characterized the way we are running this economy. Ideas are abound. Academicians, business practitioners, and many in our society have spoken about how our economy is underperforming. And if you have no iota of how the economy is performing, you can see the manner in which transport owners that all used to cluster to wait for a general pronouncement by the Ghana Private Road Transport Union so they can increase transport fares, suddenly have decided that the Ghana Private Road Transport Unions, GPRTU, cannot determine the cost of running their businesses because they are a registered company that must deal with the nuances of managing their company. So VIP just got up and increased their price.
On their own?
On their own. And I listened to Adakabre, who is the general manager, who said, look, we used to buy fuel about 2,500 or so to go to Kumasi and back. Now we are buying it in excess of 3,000. And you are telling me that I should sit down for GPR to come and tell me that I'm running at a loss? I have a company to run and I have a duty. And so they went ahead to increase their transport fares. So that is just to tell you that there is a collapse, a total breakdown. And that unity of even these unions has been shattered by the level of economic crackdown that we have. And if you take measure after measure, and the other time I told you here, that you see everything has gone very bad. It's like a curse on us. That whatever President Akufo-Addo touches, if it is gold, suddenly it turns into charcoal. And when he touches charcoal, it turns into ash. When he gets closer to the ash, boom, the wind takes it away. And that is what is happening to us. Anything that President Akufo-Addo now is doing, you see that it doesn't gel, it doesn't work. He is rather infuriating people, and out of that he himself is getting agitated and insulting. You know, and I read Manasseh's post, of course I have a similar thing. where he said that if you want to know the behavior of a wayward child, you look at the utterances of his parents. They understand. If you want to know the behavior of a wayward child, look at the utterances of his parents. And whilst President Akufo-Addo has been insulting chiefs, has been insulting voters, and telling us that he doesn't care, he cannot compel us to use our thumbs for him.
Should the president compel you to vote for him?
Would you also mute us?
No, it's a question. Would you want your
Well, there's a bigger question about that. The president went round begging. But please, Kofi, let
you
it
expect me to respond to you. When you were talking, I decided to take
please go ahead. Mr. Mona, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I have my notes.
Go ahead, Mr. Mona. He has his notes. Mr. Mona, please go ahead.
You have notes, then right.
You want me to respond?
Please, go ahead.
You understand? So, obviously, the president is going now, insulting, using offensive language against the very people he went around begging.
Well, his communicators say they are not offensive. Even though we all heard the president, but Kofi here says.
No, how can Kofi say? Because even when Katie Amon insulted him directly, that he is overcarrying beard, and he said it's like coconut, he comes to smile over it. Rishi Sunak.
42 years.
He's old. Kofi is older than him.
No, I'm not sure.
I'm not.
Kofi, are you 42 years?
No, please.
How old
He's not yet. I think he's
I'm
35.
41.
Oh, you are just a baby.
When will you be 42? Next year.
April.
He's just a baby.
You could have been president, though.
I know. But even in Ghana, I don't
But you have a
qualify to
leading
be.
member of your party speaking down at us.
Yes, insulting us.
Please go ahead.
I never heard him.
You didn't.
No, how will
You never
hear?
heard.
How will you hear?
Please
When
go
you
ahead.
start
No,
hearing-
please go ahead. We don't have the time to.
So the president is attacking everybody, and you expect our elders, our chiefs, to mold the president and draw him, just as the Ashanti-Hini did. What did the Ochin-Hini choose to do? The Ochin-Hini chose a platform to say that, look, Krasi-Foma,
I'm telling you.
and that if we are not Krasi-Foma and civilized, then we are wizards.
Can you imagine?
But when I look at the location of Ochin mine, I don't think that is beyond Krasi. I don't. And I am a proud village person. But I am proud knowing very well that from the village, wisdom comes from the village. In fact, the kind of sense we obtain from the village, you cannot obtain it in the classroom. And so if you have the Ochin openly telling people that we are witches and wizards.
Are you talking about the Ochin?
Would you?
Yeah. What is it? What is it?
Bernard, go ahead. Now,
Telling us the kind of...
please, you have 3 more minutes.
You have always done this, but I will tolerate you.
Thank you.
You understand?
Give me 1 minute of my time.
So we are suffering this. Look, the last time I told you about the plight of contractors in this country,
You said 10 billion.
and some of them are dying. Some of them have suffered stroke out of the shock that their properties are being sold. And Kofi, if you want after this, I'll take you to one of them, this house, who suffered stroke because he came out and the bank had pasted that they have gone to court to secure
Because he used that as collateral.
as a collateral, and they were selling his property. Even the buffer stock, you owe people so much that today the suppliers are not willing to supply. The CEO cannot go to office. The schools are suffering because they cannot get food to eat.
The CEO told you he's not going to office.
Oh, Master, anytime he goes to the office, they have to lock him up because suppliers are coming. You understand? That is the situation we find ourselves. And what are we doing? When professors have called for you to have a national dialogue, Kojo Opon Nkrumah comes to tell us that, oh, we are doing e-levy because we don't want to go to IMF. And after e-levy has been done, before e-levy was done, Minister for Finance decided to go on another spending spree, moving from one end to the other, telling us what he knows, aside telling us that he's born out of wedlock, telling us that why he will not go to the IMF and that Ghana will not go to IMF. We are a proud people. Inspiring his deputy, John Kuma, to go to parliament and say that we will not go to IMF today, we will not go to IMF tomorrow, we will not go to tomorrow next. The same bunch of people that doesn't have the belief in the IMF are the ones President Akufo-Addo says that lead us into an IMF bailout. But you see, this is my conclusion. The IMF has never and will never be the panacea to any country's economic problems. It is like you have a sore. Instead of treating the sore, you go and take a plaster and just come and cover it. And think that you have treated it.
So we're not treating the root causes.
And think that you have treated it. You will wake up, temporarily you will feel some comfort. But when you take up the plaster, you see that the sore is rather deeper and deeper. And that is the challenge we are having. Well, you know what? It's like Kofi owes me, owes Mutola, and owes you. And then, because of that, we are not going to give him anything. We have seen that he has sold his phone. He doesn't have anything. Suddenly, he goes to Cookie, and Cookie gives him a bailout of a car. He comes back to say, now I'm doing well. I have a new car. So that we can borrow him more money. So going to IMF is like we are going to trick the people of the world that, no, IMF has given us some support, so let's give us more money.
Right. We know that these meetings would involve grueling sessions, and the president's admission that there's a problem perhaps finally has resulted in him making that decision. Deeply involved should be the finance minister, I'm thinking, based on what the information minister is indicating. But even at the recent meetings at the World Bank in Washington with the IMF as well, and the discussions we're having with the IMF, when a question was posed to the finance minister, for which we'll play the video very soon of the finance minister on the depreciation of the cedi, he did say something. I want us to take a watch of that video, and then I'll pose a question to you based on his own actions, either presently or in the past, regarding the depreciation of the cedi and relating to this meeting.
At the beginning of the year and get our 2 billion. So that we were not able to do. We were able to then get $750 million from AfriExim. And in the summer, August or so, things stabilized a bit. Then we moved on traditionally as we do with the ASL, which is the annual syndicated loan of Cocoa Board. And that came in, very strongly. So it's quite perplexing to see where it's going. Of course, typically in October, people are importing for Christmas, and maybe, there's a rush for that. But my expectation is that once we also conclude with the fund, that will lead to the fund's disbursement, early next year to do that. And the support we are getting from countries like Germany, France, etc., we are confident that we get the resources needed.
Kofi, so my question is, you have a finance minister, even at a time when he was in Washington, discussing with the IMF an agreement, which already the IMF, based on their statement, is indicating is inconclusive, and they will have to come down to Ghana. The Ghana they are coming to is seeing a spiral or out of range depreciation of the cedi, out of control. And the finance minister said, it is normal within this time of the year. But at the same time, we're having the same finance minister, whether he's compelled or not, to convene this meeting. So if he thinks it is normal, why is he convening this meeting for?
He also, when he said what he said, he gave the reasons why. And I think that we need to avert our minds to that reason or those reasons. One, Ghana, we don't print dollars in this country. What we do is that when we are able to go to the financial markets, raise bonds, and then the bonds are bought in dollars, it gives us a bit of, some more dollars. And then, of course, we have our buffer. So that when businesses and individuals do need some dollars, Bank of Ghana will be able to give same to the banks and the forex. If you look at how unsustainable our debts are, and the fact that we are not able to go to the financial market to raise bonds, it has caused a reduction in the supply.
But now who caused up?
See, when I come here and I sit here and I speak with you, I'm also speaking with Ghanaians. They need to understand these things. They must hear.
Are you saying Ghanaians are ignorant?
No, I'm not saying that, but I need to reinforce.
Insulting us this morning.
Don't do this.
Oh, please. Don't heckle him.
So it's not everybody that understand what is going on. Sometimes they feel, okay, the
Are
dollars.
you serious?
No,
Are
I'm
you
telling
trying
you.
to toe the line of the president in communicating?
Don't do this. Don't do this. I am telling you what the realities are. Sometimes the impression is created as though politicians, like we have this Teflon attitude that we don't listen to anybody.
Pastor, don't bring us
no,
into
no.
Just say MP.
Aren't you a politician?
No, don't say all politicians. Say MP.
Today you guys have sat here and behaved
Don't bring
as
us
hostages.
into those things.
You behave as if you've never been in government.
We haven't insulted
You
you.
haven't. Don't go
talking
there.
to me.
You see, you haven't insulted
Kofi, please
Ghanaians.
don't be swayed, please. Go ahead. Kofi, go ahead.
For me, the
Carry on,
situation
course.
in which we find ourselves is as a result of the fact that we have short supply of as against demand of dollars.
But we're not the only country in the world reeling from the
this has
effect of the
nothing to
shocks
do-
of all that's happening.
No.
Because the dollar is stronger and
Do you know why
and the economies of many
do you know
countries
why
are
the
difficult.
dollar was suffering between 2014 2015?
We all do know that.
Yes.
So you do
these are-
acknowledge that the problem that the NDC faced were only not internal but also external. Please go ahead.
Like that.
So now, we have 1, 2, 3. It's okay. But you see,
But that's not fair. I'm moderating.
Walker,
You know,
the reality.
please go ahead.
The reality is that where we find ourselves is not where we expected to be, and clearly, as a result of the short supply of dollars in the system, that is causing what we are seeing. Because when there's a short supply, the demand will go up and prices will also increase. When you look at the curves, the interaction of demand and supply. So it's our hope that when the IMF, and nobody is saying the IMF is a panacea, and we have been in their program for over 17 times, and that has not really, but the reality is that anytime we are in with the program, we seem to economically, the macroeconomic
But the finance
indicators,
minister failed to recognize that earlier.
the macroeconomic indicators.
I think
seem
you
to
know
be-
that, but the finance minister failed to recognize
But
that.
we need to come to a time in the life of the country as Ghanaians that we cannot always go to this Bretton Woods institution. We have to be independent at some point. That is why the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda is something that's at the heart of the president and even myself. We cannot always run to these people for support or help. And as a result of these things, the IMF, they have started changing the attitude towards some of these things in terms of conditionality. Look, Johnny, we are not in good times. Things are tough.
Yeah,
Prices
Johnny.
out there are not the
Roland.
best. Sorry, forgive me.
He's used to.
Roland.
I think Johnny, is a minister, so
the
Aboli
economy is too
so-
bad that
Aboli
he's not even
deputizing
getting your name right.
to the end of the month.
So for me,
So I think
these
it's understandable.
consultations, just recently when the president went to Eastern region for his talk, he even met with the market women, even at night, to have negotiations
But he
and
was
discussions.
booted at some of the places.
It's okay. It's okay. At where we are, it's okay. Okay. You see, one thing that we need to understand, Walker, is that we had almost 5 million people who rejected the president. We had almost 5 million people who said they didn't like the MPP. So when these things happen, we should not assume that all Ghanaians should naturally love the president. No, we have so many millions of Ghanaians who doesn't like the president. Just recently, I was just with a
You're
young
saying
lady.
those people, because they are 5 million voted for the
I am
NDC, they are
saying that-
NDC.
No, I'm not saying they are. No, not everybody that voted against MPP is NDC.
So,
Okay.
They are Ghanaians and probably don't like our policies. They didn't like our candidate and all of that. So I'm saying that it is not
what about
out of
Ashanti
place.
region?
It is not out of place.
Over 2
Even
million
in Ashanti region, do you know, the NDC got the highest votes. Not even in the Volta region, but even
Over
in Ashanti.
600,000.
Even in Ashanti region.
So you're saying those who hooted at the president
were the
in the
NDC.
Ashanti
The
region were
point
they
I'm
over
trying to
600,000
establish is that it is not everybody that
will love the president.
exactly
Because
and
there were
find
those
favor
who
with our policies.
so those who voted against the president decided to stand in a doom and all that.
It's not about. I'm trying to give you facts.
I'm only trying to
that it's not-
interpret what you're saying.
I understand. I'm trying to paint the picture that it's not everybody that is happy. In fact, we have a lot of people who are not happy because of the economic circumstances in which
Have you
we
seen
find
videos
ourselves.
of individuals who said they were MPP people either at the
Branch
branch level,
executives.
etc., or at the the
Branch
local
executive.
level? Yes, who have are on social media. Some of them claim that they've been given letters to resign from
Roland.
their position. So they're
Roland.
they're genuine people who
Roland.
have shown face publicly.
Roland, it is a fact that Ghanaians do find favor with MPP's policies and programs. When you look at the numbers, majority of Ghanaians prefer the MPP at any given day and at any given time.
Huh.
When you look at the figures, Ghanaians have a lot of expectations from the MPP, more than they do have with the NDC. So anytime even the NDC comes to power, you realize, as for these people, but when it comes to MPP, the expectations are different. So where we are now, even if you killed yourself for the MPP and for the president, currently you wouldn't be happy. So I am not surprised that we are seeing some of these things because of the economic situation in which we find ourselves. But I'm sitting here and I can assure the good people of this country that things will get better. We are inching towards making sure that we turn around things. It's unfortunate, extremely unfortunate. We go out there, we look at the figures, we are presented with the fact things are not that good. But I can assure Ghanaians that things will turn around very soon.
Roland, he said,
all right.
You see, I read a book written by late Professor Awono. Let me make this point. I read a book written by late Professor Awono. And Roland, I read the book when I was in SS1. I went to the Tamale Library and I saw that book. And I developed reading books about Ghana's political history at a very young age. My grandfather was one of the founding members of the Buiza Dankwa tradition. The more I read about the political history of this country, the more, yes, the Tolna
you switch sides.
No, I have never liked this because of that arrogance expressed by them anytime and think that.
So your grandfather was arrogant?
I'm saying that I have never liked this tradition. My grandfather wasn't. I have never liked this tradition because of, and it's been demonstrated here this morning. There's a proverb in Dagbani, when the chief comes home with weird haircut, what do you expect his subjects to do? They will come with tapiajo. The president went to Kumasi and insulted everybody. And he sat here and insulted us again. Look, yes, that's why exactly. He said, but let me deal with the Omunimfi. When I read that book, Professor Awono quoted Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And there's a statement Nkrumah made, and he quoted him. He said, he described the Buiza Dankwa tradition. He and his grandfather, parents, those who are in the Buiza Dankwa tradition, that they are people with narrow intellectual and political horizons, but they always see themselves as the leaders.
But you sat here this morning,
hold on, please.
Denigrating,
I haven't said
downgrading, maligning the MPP, the government, the finance minister. If I tell you, you people are incompetent, you are hurt, and you are relating it to tribal.
You are saying it. You said it.
Have I mentioned tribal here?
Please.
Have I mentioned tribal?
Don't do that.
Nkrumah described the Buiza Dankwa tradition.
You guys are incompetent. It's a fact.
That there are people with narrow intellectual.
So what are you recalling history?
But let's come to the president.
Let's come
he
to
said
the
that Roman he.
Let's come to the
Ghanaians and
let's come to the
anytime. That's what I'm.
There's a
at.
meeting.
Yes, anytime NDC is informed. NDC we manage the economy better than you did.
You never did.
Oh, why? I have just told you the Cedi to the dollar was 3.7. It is how much is it today? Inflation was 15%. How much is it? 37% going. And I'm saying how much was a gallon of petrol? How much is it today? They are no longer talking about the depreciation of the cedi. You remember when we talked about the ratio? They say, oh, depreciation over 100%. As a matter of fact, unemployment under the NDC you describe as it was 6.8 today. What is the unemployment rate? Read the 2022 financial statement and go and read.
Now you cannot make that analysis.
Please.
You were with employment, didn't you?
Have you read the statistical services? The latest.
He just returned from America.
I will sit here with you.
You just returned from, and you see, he said something under the NDC. We were spending $500 million importing rice and poultry products into this country. And in fact, in 2014, the President Mahama, you described as incompetent, succeeded in reducing the production, the importation of rice, foreign rice into this country by 40%. And there was a surge in the production of rice in this country by 60%. Today, you took it from 500 million to over $2 billion. Now, what it simply means, and I'm happy he's so coming to town. He says that, oh, if you look at it, it's a demand and supply. The law of demand says the higher the demand, the higher the price, the lower the demand. The lower the price, the higher the demand. And the law of supply says the higher the supply, the lower the price. The lower the supply, the higher the price. It's a simple law of demand and supply. Now, it means that every year you have to look around, get this over $2 billion just for the purposes of importing rice and poultry products into this country. If this is not crass, gross, incompetent... So
all you're saying is that these are all policy issues?
If this is not crass, gross, incompetent, what is it? But let me tell you what will shock you. Go to Nadmo. Even the food, he said the taste. He said the taste. I'm just concluding. I'm concluding on this. Go to Nadmo.
I'm taking a break.
Nadmo buys rice. You know why? They don't buy local rice to distribute to those who are affected by disaster. They buy foreign rice. School feeding, they have created someone who sits at the Flagstaff house, who supplies rice, and they supply foreign rice. As I talk to you today, inshallah, by Allah's will, I have started harvesting my rice today. Honorable Tanku, has thousands of acres of rice. Akando has several hundreds of acres of rice. Avnash in Tamale have stockpile of rice. Government is the largest buyer of rice. You don't buy from them. We had a ban on the importation of rice into this country by small rice importers. You are aware. I was asked to constitute a team to investigate it. I used a leading member of your party, Mr. Kofi Kapito. When they went and investigated and came out, they said the ban that was instituted by Honorable Harun Ediso, there were justification, every justifiable reason for the ban to maintain. Because they financed your campaign, you lifted the ban. This incompetent Minister for Trade and Industries. Now, if you move from $500 million in the importation of rice and poultry products into this country to over $2 billion, then you sit here and then you tell me that, oh, it is about global economy. So that is why I made the earlier proverb, in the Debane proverb, that you can't sleep with smelling and with itching and do not expect it. No, it's a fact. Because the problems you are facing, you cause those problems. I shouldn't repeat.
Mr. Mutala, thank you. But Bernard, the World Bank has indicated recently that if we had taken what they call the debt suspension initiative and debt service suspension initiative back in 2020, which ended in December 2021, we would have at least suspended debt payment for some time. Indeed, there were 78 countries that were eligible, or 73 countries, and it was extended to Ghana. We decided not to take it. Now we're hurriedly going to the IMF and hurriedly putting together these meetings, and hopefully we should get something out of them.
Well, when you have arrogant people leading you,
Yes.
this is the kind of situation you find yourself. Even as I don't believe in the Bretton Woods institutions' pronouncement and prescriptions as a solution to the problems that we confront us. It is important.
Our hands are tied, right?
It is important that we must not be unnecessarily unreasonable. I'm just trying to refine my words away from being harsh. And so, if you take it from that perspective, there was debt suspension. And I sit here and I listen to Kofi. I'm told that his name is now Frederick Kofi Ameyawo Akufu.
It's external affairs.
Yeah, so
That's why he got that appointment.
Oh,
so-
you have a Kufu now?
Yes.
No, it's not true.
So when you listen to the finance minister, who tells us in the video you played before the second round of conversation, and he's stating that, oh, we used to get 2 billion at the beginning of the year. How did you get the 2 billion? You went to borrow, which Kofi will style as bonds. You went to borrow. And President Akufo-Addo told us that there's no need to borrow. Vice President Bawumia in opposition said, like, he worked in the Bank of Ghana, there's no need to borrow any money. Then you, as finance minister, your stock in trade is to borrow. Now you were borrowing and people were telling you that you were exceeding the capacity of the nation to be able to brief. You ignored all the wise counsel and you kept borrowing till such a time that when you went to borrow 2 billion, you could not get. You got 750 and only 713 was received by the Bank of Ghana. 37 billion is not accountable as of now.
Oh, come on. Explanation has come out.
Was this man not in the studio? Or was I not in the studio when he was talking?
Please go ahead.
And I kept mute.
You nearly cried when
No.
Yeah,
It's okay.
you understand? So it's obvious that 713 was received. 37 billion is unaccounted for. We sit here and we keep borrowing. And you have borrowed to such an limit that they say, look, at this stage, suspend your debt servicing so that you can have some respite. You decline to take the option. Today, you are running to the IMF. And what are you telling us? That you are going to meet with managers of banks?
Sorry, I have to make this short for you. I have to go for a break.
How come that anytime I want to speak, you make something short?
No, we have to go for a break. We'll be right back.
Let him go. Come on.
Mr. Mona, how optimistic are you? Just say in a wrap of 2 minutes that we'll have great outcomes from this meeting. The president ultimately, according to what the communication is supposed to come and give us a live address, so to speak. Even if it's recorded, still no problem. It's still an address.
I don't know what hope we are going to get. You took an initiative to go after persons who were trading on the streets. You have licensed forest bureau operators, and they also have their boys taking motorbikes and staying at vantage points where people easily will convert their monies from. And the best you could do under the circumstances was that they had dollars and they were given to people. At the time when you are crying that there are no dollars in the system, people have dollars and they can give. You went around with the police arresting these people so that the dollars would not be in the system. Most of them decided to lock up their foreign currency in their various rooms and shops. And within the period that they locked up, you realize that there was a shore in the demand for the dollars. And once there is a shore in the demand for dollars, you expect that the price of the dollar will go up. So it means that you did not think through at all before taking such a reactionary policy. Suddenly, today, that after you have run the economy amok, you now realize that no, there is a need to meet with the forest operators. There is a need to meet with your banks so that you can sit down and now kind of come up with some rapprochement on how you'll be able to find a solution to the currency depreciation. I think that it is a call too late. There have been many people like Professor Jampo, we have heard Martin Kwebu, we have heard Professor Boping, we have heard the university professor from Cape Coast. Many of them have spoken about the fact that we are in serious crisis. Anytime President Akufo-Addo takes delight to mock at, quote, the people of Ghana by reposing confidence in Ken Ofori-Atta as a financial wizard, moments after the president makes those pronouncements, you see the CD tumbling. Moments after the president makes those pronouncements, just take a critical look at the sharp rate at which the CD has fallen. It is always at the time President Akufo-Addo comes to say, no.
The name is inimical too.
That this is what I believe, and I have confidence in Ken Ofori-Atta. As soon as he says that, the markets just relapse. They fall flat. And so what the markets invariably is telling President Akufo-Addo is that don't even mention the name Ken Ofori-Atta associated with the economy. Because by just that pronouncement alone, things will go bad. Dr. Kofi Amwa, how many times has he not spoken about the manner in which Ken Ofori-Atta has not been up to the task? But if that is the best President Akufo-Addo has, then it means that we are going to go into more shit even after these meetings.
Your language is unsavory.
I'm sorry.
Please retract it.
I should say what?
More trouble.
So
Give me a synonym.
I don't know. If you have one, take it for me.
More under.
Bernard Mona.
Roland.
Yeah, please. Who is chairing the meetings? Is it the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Ubame, the distinguished economist heading the economic management team, or the finance minister?
I don't have the unique privilege to know who is doing it.
Okay.
But
he's the head of the economic management team. So how
but
can
it's
the
a
head?
special meeting.
How can the head
It's a
of the
special
economic
meeting. Please don't
management
laugh.
team decide that somebody should come and superintend that meeting?
So,
you said
but
you always
realize
hold
that
your
we are
hands.
about to
talking to you.
close. Bernard, if you've realized, today I've been able to divorce myself from extreme partisan discussion.
Massa, which?
Do you get it? Oh, stop it. At this point, this is critical. Because I believe that where we are, we need some form of national consensus.
So which stakeholders are involved in this meeting then? If this is
even around this table, I'm just talking around this table.
Okay.
You see, there have been a lot of, utterances and statements made by my two friends.
but you've
here.
also made some.
No, I know that. Hitherto I would have responded and reminded them and then Ghanaians what they did when they were in
Remind
power.
us.
Oh no, it's not
Let's
necessary.
look at the
It's not
facts.
necessary. It's not
There's
necessary.
nothing to remind us.
No, it's not
but
necessary.
remind us.
But I think at this point, especially when we have come out from an NDC administration that was
Now 6 years.
bad.
Yeah. What do you
let
mean
me
by
make
bad?
a point. That was
Anyway.
so bad. And now, because of some exogenous factors, we are also in a very bad shape. I think it's about time we need to
Wow.
come together understand some few things. Yes, government will take its blame, but we as a people, we also have a responsibility and a role to play. Our over-dependence on, over-reliance on foreign goods requires that we...
Who is supposed to keep that
that's why I'm saying...
wet appetite?
That's what I'm saying.
Or taste?
That's what I'm saying. The government
It's
has
a policy issue,
Yeah, it's
right?
a policy
and
issue.
policy is driven by the government of the day.
And I'm saying that government, not just Akufo-Addo's government, but governments across board have made attempts to make sure we are able to curtail some of these.
That's why the NDC was voted out of power and not retained also in 2020.
Look, at the time when...
If you are making comparison to the government.
It's not about comparison of government. But I'm saying that governments have made...
You're doing equalization.
No, I said
trying to recall history.
No, I'm trying to make sure
you know the current inflation rate is the largest or the highest we've seen since 2001. Actually, June 2001. And even that one was 36.8%.
But I will agree that's the case. But we also need to agree what are the factors, what are the causal effects. Why do we always want to run away from the causal effects? Because what we are experiencing now, we have never experienced since 2001.
That's not true.
That's the fact.
What are we experiencing?
Why? You talk about the reduction of world commodity prices. Yes, it's true. But is it to the extent of what we are experiencing now?
What are we experiencing now?
What we are experiencing now?
No, please. You are saying that what we witness. Look, this
in terms of reduction in commodity prices, world commodity prices, the gold prices.
This is the worst we've seen in this country.
Yes.
And this is the worst we've seen in the world.
We had the global recession.
And that was even worse.
2008, 2009, 2007, 2008. Please. Let's not go there, please.
This is a pandemic.
No. This is not the worst.
No. Look.
We had.
Okay, granted that is the worst.
The expenditure that we expended on Ghanaians.
All right.
And the loss of revenue. Have you ever experienced it in the history of this country? No, we haven't.
Which expenditure have you spent on Ghanaians?
Loss of revenue.
Loss of revenue. Almost about 11 billion Ghana cedis that we lost. The kind of mitigating factors.
Are you listening to yourself at all?
The draconian measures that we put in place to ensure that we protect. Listen, let me end by saying this.
Oh God.
When the president said in one of his many addresses to the people during the pandemic that we know how to bring back the economy.
But we don't know how to.
It was a clear acknowledgement and admittance that at some point the economy will die.
So it's dead now.
Are you serious? But when the president was
when he's
addressing us, he knew that
there will be
post 2020 Ghana's economy will be in turmoil.
There will be consequences.
Know what you are communicating.
This government is wicked. So you knew that the economy was going to die.
But it's a fact that whenever we go through this pandemic and all these things, it takes a while for the economy to bounce back. This is a fact.
All right.
It's a fact that, yes, because of the measures we took, it will affect the economy one way or the other. And I'm again assuring Ghanaians that the confidence they do have in us, anytime and every day, they should continue to have that abiding faith with us. And I can assure you,
the president has received awards for all the things
we will turn things around.
Roland.
All right. Okay.
Even in the eyes.
Please, I only have 2 minutes for you. We have to wrap up.
Roland,
It's
even
getting
in
to
the
the
eyes of all the proven facts, he still maintained that they are doing better than the NDC did. Inflation, job creation, economic stability, everything. Even our rating internationally. In fact, corruption. And let me point him out. One of the reasons why we are suffering the way we are suffering is because of the elephant level of corruption we are experiencing, unprecedented level. And go and look at the corruption perception index. The lowest of the NDC has been your highest. So tell me one area of the economy that the NDC didn't perform better than you did. But because you see, they think that Ghanaians are a bunch of idiots. That let's keep on telling people that the NDC was worse. When all the indicators,
you have a minute. You have a minute.
And you see, let's be very honest. And
we want to wrap up. Please,
the reason why
we think Ghanaians are hardworking.
Please, a minute. You have a minute, sir.
Ghanaians are hardworking.
They are very smart.
You have a minute.
Very assertive.
Ghanaians are assertive, but you think we are not. You see,
you have a minute.
The reason why we are facing what we are facing today is squarely on the level of incompetence of this government. Look, the last time I checked, it is not only the over 5 million who voted against this government who are crying. Today, on my way, I listened to to that group, that MPP group, Occupy Ghana. It was an MPP offshoot. They themselves described the economy, that the economy is in 30s. The last time I checked, Professor Juma Boydu is not an NDC person. And in fact, if he has friends, his friends are the leading members of your party, including the president. He said the president fight against corruption is in 30s. CDD, IEA, in fact, no, IEA, the list, I won't even tell. CDD, ISE, Imani, they are all not friends of NDC. They are all friends of the government.
2 minutes, and then I read some messages. 2 minutes,
Oh, yes.
2 minutes, please. Don't crowd Mr. Mona out. He's a man of peace.
Oh, he spoke first.
Mr. Mona, 2 minutes. Sorry, strictly.
I just think that we are in a terrible
situation.
Yes. The president must sober and lower himself to the people rather than being belligerent and arrogant in his pronouncement. His communicators and other appointees must learn that, look, this is not the time to be speaking at the people anyhow, because we need to rally everybody. And I think that a certain sense of political communication is absent in the pronouncements even of our president. Because, for instance, to fight Galamsey, the president meet with the chiefs, and typical, the president decides that he will offload the blame on the chiefs by saying that the chiefs control 80% of lands in this country. But chiefs don't give mining licenses and permits. It is the central government that does. And so if you are the appointer of all the people that grant the licenses, then why are you blaming the chiefs who are sitting in their communities? Moving forward, the president meets with MMDCEs and said that, look, all this fight about clearing our environment, making our environment safe, is to ensure that we are able to break the 8. And I'm just wondering that as a PNC person, whether I am interested in the MPP to break the 8 and staying in office. And I'm wondering whether the NDC will be interested in the president going out to break the 8. But if the fight for Galamsey or against Galamsey is about the MPP breaking the 8, then that is not a call to rally as a nation. It is a partisan call, and that's why I'm saying that president must lower and monitor the way he communicates to the people. Because if you fail in the way you communicate to people in crisis hour, you don't think that the people can support your effort to overcome the challenges that we face.
Well, let's look at some messages.
We have advised the president
some
that
of you have
Ken
been sending some
Oforiatta is the number one.
So
Ken Oforiatta is the number one
Let me read the first one.
Of our
Please put the message on the screen for me.
And the longer Ken Oforiatta continues to be in office,
so we have
this economic mess will
from
not escape us.
He says, and these messages mainly, we'll start with Facebook. I don't understand why Parliament, please, can I read the message? Has approved for us to pay COVID levy, and we are still paying. What's going on with our Parliament? From Rexford. Well, it's in the budget as well. And I'm saying the BOG should also be blamed. That is not to say the Minister of Finance and the President should not be blamed. For them, it's obvious to everyone, from Baidu. If he knows there's short supply of dollars in the system, the government should have regulated the supply of currency so the country has done in countries like South Africa and Ethiopia. And this point was raised vividly yesterday as well. And this one is from Edward. And from Dugbaza, the only solution for us now is to impeach the non-listening president. Parliament should invoke Article 69 of the Constitution to start the proceedings. Well, Parliament is resuming. Is it today? Is it today? Today. Okay.
We will do it.
Parliament
next, if we have. From Kelvin, I'm just wondering what the MPP campaign message for 2024 would be. Vote for us to fix the problem the other MPP and the last NDC government caused. That's a question. We'll ponder over it. Ordinary voters. And that's the last one. Please make sure that you keep the conversations ongoing. So we have TV3Newday as the hashtag across TV3 Ghana on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. My great guests have been Frederick Kofi Ameyao. He's the External Affairs Director.
He's a civil servant
based in New York, United States of America.
I respond to it, Kofi.
And then also a member of government's communication. Thank you for joining us, Kofi. And then Bernard Mona is a former chair for the PNC. And then also We have the man himself, the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, and
I don't
Mr.
know why you are
Mr.
not
Mutala.
interested in finding out from him that he's a civil servant.
Our WhatsApp line has
No,
been
find out
down,
from
so
WhatsApp
we
is
would have so we would have brought the messages. But I think it's also a problem generally with the app itself. People may be experiencing the problems with WhatsApp generally. But thank you, gentlemen. It's been a delight having this conversation. But the great Johnny Hughes is having this conversation with the Deputy Majority Chief Whip. Is also the Member of Parliament for Tolong. And Habib Idrisu is up next. Great conversation. I'll be watching throughout. You should as well. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.
He must support